Welcome, everybody, to Generation Dan, the only podcast where we're pretty sure both hosts have brained themselves on the coffee table. I'm Atlas Novak. I'm your millennial. Who else is here with me?
I am Dino the Genetic Marvel, and I am sick with a cold. Fun times. I feel like poop, but I am here. I am mobile, and I have water. I have Kleenex. I have all sorts of things at my fingertips to keep me functional. And that's what matters.
Now,
Uh,
there's the two types of cold medicine. There's the might as well be methamphetamine type, where like it'll get rid of the stuffies for about 3 hours, and then you're moving 80
yeah.
miles an hour.
Yep.
Or there's the other kind, which is I take this to sleep because otherwise, like you were saying off mic,
Yeah.
you close your eyes and wait for time to pass.
Hello, Titanium. Hi, Victoria. So this is the thing: is that I'm I feel like it's a mild cold because even my boogers have started to go almost clear, and it's been a few days. So I'm already in recovery mode, I think, because like that's the signal is your boogers are if your boogers aren't clear, you're sick. That's the
Yeah, seems
the
to be
idea.
like when you blow your nose and then it's like, guess what? We're back. Like,
Oh yeah, 100%, right? So
yeah.
but the problem is like I'm not sleepy, and also okay, so what a lot of people don't understand, and this is actually true, this is also for the for plan B, is that if you are over a certain weight, they don't really work. So it's like you're not supposed to take more than the regular dosage, but the regular dosage doesn't work. So it's this weird situation where you kind of have to double up, but don't double up, just kind of overlap a little bit extra, and then you're okay, which is a nightmare.
Do you know where you're
Because
pregnant?
well, no, I was for like 40 years, and now I'm not. Now I'm just like, now I get to be the person who goes, nope, just fat. Thanks for noticing.
I mistimed it. Damn it.
The all right, I have Fisherman's Friend on in bulk. But yeah, so that's the thing is I'm taking NyQuil pills, which I prefer the liquid form, but my wife likes the pills, so we have the pills.
Yeah, it's the same. I like the pills. Katie likes the liquid
Yeah.
form.
I'm not sure why. I just feel like the liquid is fast acting. I guess it soothes my throat immediately, and then like I don't know. But
Yeah.
so I'm taking NyQuil every like 5 hours, and then I have a Benadryl for cough and sinus that is supposed to last 6 hours, and I kind of take that. So like I'll take after 3 hours of NyQuil, I'll take the Benadryl, and
Yeah.
then it's like then I'm like ugh, and kind of like in a situation where I can't really sleep, but I can't really move either. So it's kind of like being on mushrooms, but not as sparkly and dramatic. More so just, hey, you're in some sort of limbo slash void. Just close your eyes, and relax. So I just kind of in bed, which is nice. So
If you want to hear what doing mushrooms is like, we have an episode about that with
yeah,
which I think is like Hire a Giant or something. I forgot the full
yeah,
title, but it's from some months ago.
yeah,
Well, the episode today that we're talking about is dumb injuries and I guess dumb sicknesses, because
yeah.
for people watching this on YouTube, you can see that I'm in a new place. I have moved apartments. I'm no
Ooh.
longer in the bathroom like I was last week. The empty bathroom while the movers
Yeah.
do their thing. Sorry,
Have a good night, Titanium. That's fair.
Yeah, full episode will be up later, so you can
Yeah.
always watch it. Anyway, so we did that, and we're now in this new apartment. I'm sitting in my office. I have an office now, and that's why
Ooh.
Ozzy is behind me still.
So luxurious. So luxurious. It's nice.
Anyway, thank you. He's hanging off two of the doorknobs. Can you see that? Like the little closets up there? It's two of those that are keeping the
I mean, it works.
picture study.
So
So we moved into this new apartment and we were pulling things out of the boxes. Now,
Yep.
I'm pulling the knife block out of one of the boxes.
yeah.
And unfortunately, not all the knives had been stuck up all the way to the handle. Some of them had a little bit of the blade showing. My hand slipped, and shink. I had also drank caffeine that morning, which, to those who don't know, is a blood thinner, which means that I slashed my finger open and spurted blood all over our new kitchen. To make things worse, my hemophobic wife, fear of blood,
Yes.
came into the kitchen and nearly fainted. So I'm putting pressure on my finger and cleaning up my own blood from the cabinets.
So let's also add that Katie has come home finding you on the ground in a pool of blood, where you got your little villain scar, if we can call it that. God, man, what I also too. So, okay, I am a firm believer that like intuition tells you this is stupid, and you're like, it'll be fine. And then stupid happens, you're like, I should have listened. So it's like every time you grab something and you're like, I don't think this is appropriate. Like, I shouldn't be doing this. I should do this the safe way. And then you're like, it'll be fine. And then you hurt yourself. You're like, every time I like when you were grabbing the thing, were you like, I should probably grab the knives first and then the block and then put the knives in? Like, was there anything like that in your mind?
There wasn't really space to do that. Like, it was just the box, and then the block was taking up most of the space in it. What I should have done was grab, because the block is like a square, so you can put your fingers into the edge. What I should have done was done that, and then had Katie come in and pull the box off of the block instead of trying to lift the block. That's what I should.
True.
Yeah. As a result of my mistake, I had to go to urgent care and get 4 stitches. See that? Yeah, that's super fun. Have you ever been flipping off people constantly? Like, I am just trying not to get this to touch anything.
Yeah. Well,
so
did they not give you any sort of band? They just said leave it open just to breathe, and
they bandaged it up, and they're like, first 3 days keep it bandaged, then after the 3rd day take it off and then let it breathe while it heals.
Fair enough.
It is itchy as hell, and I have been on edge since like Thursday because I want to scratch it so bad.
I understand. Are there the stitches that fall out or the stitches that you have to get removed?
I gotta go back next weekend and go get them taken out.
Just get a stitch ripper and just it'll be fine. You don't.
I guess so. Yeah.
It's not that
when I got villain scar stitches out, it was I was at a neurologist visit just like for a checkup.
Yeah.
And I was like, while I'm here, do you want to take my stitches out? He did not want to. He was like, okay, nurse, can you get the kit for me? And like, you could see I haven't done this since med school. Fuck you, but I'm going to do this because I'm your doctor.
Yeah.
All over his face. I felt bad.
I mean, like, listen, there's a certain amount of like, it's the same thing is that as you get older and you're like, I'm experienced, I should know what I'm doing. When people are like, can you do this? And you're like, I should be able to do this. I've done this before. I just don't want to do it because I know it's going to go tits up. And that is one of the things that you kind of, it's very much where you're just like that kind of shit happens. And you're just like, oh my God, I know better. It's not, I should know better. I know better. Why am I doing this? And then you just reluctantly are like, all right, I'll figure it out, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I get that. That's for sure. I feel, well, you guys hired movers as well, right?
Yes.
So how did that work out? Was that okay?
That went fine.
Yeah.
We hired movers when we were moving in together.
Yeah.
We moved into the last apartment. Worked out pretty good. These movers, though, were the kind where they like packed for you, but they also charge you more if they take over a certain amount of time. Yeah. So I was just packing the entire week, and they packed for, I don't know, maybe half an hour.
Oh, okay.
And then that's it. Like, and then they just moved our stuff.
Like, I'd rather pack all my stuff,
yeah,
and then have movers to move my stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I would like, if it's big stuff, yeah, don't touch it. Like, big stuff, yeah, I can hire somebody to move that. I don't want to do that. Right?
Yeah, I'm too old for this, you know.
Well, like, so the desk that I'm at right now is, so I'm totally gonna be moving my office into a little nook that we have that's in the laundry room because I'm creating like a kitchenette type thing so I can cook there and everything. Mm-hmm. And like then I'm like, I got to get rid of this desk because this desk is quite big and clunky.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm trying to figure out how I can convince Kyle to come help me because I'm like, I could probably do it by myself, but this is another thing you learn when you're big.
You can't do the pizza and beer thing. It doesn't work on us anymore.
For one item, yes, you can. And also, one item,
Hmm.
just one item. It's just a desk, and it just got to go up the stairs and outside. Not a big deal. So, but this is the thing: is like being a large person, you kind of are like, I could probably do it myself, but also, if
That's
I do it
how
myself,
you like get a fucking hernia. Like,
I have hernias. It's
Yeah.
fine. I've had back in the day, I had 6 herniated discs, and trust me, it was definitely from moving shit. So that being said, like there's a certain element of like, can you like I can do it myself, but there's a most likely I'm gonna hurt myself. And the problem is I gotta take it upstairs, which I'm like, I can take it up the stairs, but I don't know if I can lift it because so the stairs are cornered. So I'm like, I got to go up,
no.
twist, and then out.
You gotta do
So-
the pivot.
Well,
Fred.
like it's yeah, weirdly, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't really care if this thing gets busted. So it's like I'm pretty sure I can twist it out, like it should be fine. But also, I'm like, I don't have me at the top of the stairs.
Right.
I have nobody. So I'm like, and also like now I'm kind of nibble. So I'm like, maybe I could climb over it. And it's like, also don't do that because I have been experimenting with like parkour and like I can't parkour. But at the same time, I'm like, I am more limber at a smaller size. So it's like,
you need a drop of that thing from The Office with Michael Scott. He's like doing over the top parkour. Like,
I mean, it's exactly how it is. Because I'm like, I'll shuffle out of bed and be like parkour, and it's like, it's not parkour. I'm like, it's kind of parkour because I'm also a giant. So that's
See,
I don't know.
Like, I'm kind of afraid of a hernia because my dad, he's gotten 2 of them since I think graduated high school, and the second one nearly killed him because of the like way that they did it, where like they're supposed to sew. Like, for those who don't know, a hernia is like the space between your muscles opens and stuff pops out.
Yeah.
So usually when they operate on you, they operate the opposite way, like a crosshatch almost, to keep everything in. So the stuff that they had done wasn't in the right place the second time, and like his intestines came out and like stuff from that came out, and it nearly he nearly went septic and killed him.
Yeah.
So that's a dumb injury.
Totally dumb injury.
And it was from like lifting a table or something at first, and I'm like,
oh yeah,
damn, Atlas lost weight since he got married. I don't think so.
Yeah, she's starving him.
Thanks,
That's
Joey. I'm starving.
Now he can't leave. So you do look thinner though. That's true.
Thank you. You want to know something about this apartment? It's cold as fuck. Like,
Ooh.
there's hardwood floors, meaning so that's a big part of it. But also, a lot of the windows have like a tree growing in front of it, so you don't get like the sun blasting in most of the day. You get light, but
that's a huge advantage.
Mm-hmm.
What? Hold on, because last time you were in a low rise, is it real world cold or California cold? That's a good question too.
California cold, like low 50s.
So t-shirt weather, beautiful.
For you guys.
What? Because before you were on like the second floor or something, right?
Yeah, we're still on the second floor.
Nice.
In this one. So I assume in the summer this will be to our advantage.
Yeah.
But right now I'm like using my bathrobe a lot more often, like just to walk around. But
let's be honest, Atlas. You give off professor in a bathrobe vibes.
Oh, dude, are you kidding me? Every time it's pajama day at my school, I wear like PJ pants, slippers, and the bathrobe, and like that's become the thing. Mr. Novak wears a bathrobe to school. It's also got a hood on it, so that's.
I mean, you're definitely the Sith Lord of pajamas. Like that's. I mean, that's a totally reasonable thing. Joey says it's 68 degrees in one room, and they're in parkas. Oh, so last year. Listen, last year when I was in Mexico, it was February, so it's winter time, and it was like 25 degrees, and people were wearing like puffer jackets, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, that's ridiculous. It scarves on, and I'm like, that's insane.
Dude, yeah.
But
Nah, it's like the thing where you wear like an open hoodie out when you're
yeah, yeah.
outside. That's
Well,
it's
that's
not like
I have varying degrees. I have like a jersey hoodie, and then I have this Costco one, which is my thick hoodie. And that way, I'm like, I can regulate between which hoodie do I need for good,
yeah.
comfortable sleep.
Like here, the thing I sent you. One of my students drew that of me, and they drew me in a bathrobe because of that
Which is
thing. Like that's the
it's a great picture. Like, let's be honest.
yeah. Oh no,
Also,
I want to put this on a T-shirt so bad.
100%. But
Yeah.
it's also like it makes you look gorgeous. So that's fine.
Yeah.
You definitely give off supervillain vibes. If anything, they should exaggerate the scar a little bit on the
You'd think,
eye,
right?
and like, yeah.
I think because most of my students don't see me up close. They see you like from 10, 20, like
Yeah,
however
yeah.
far back, and for the few that do, it's like for 30 seconds maybe.
Also, the way that's drawn, like, so if
Yeah.
everyone looks at this picture here, okay, it looks like you don't have a mustache, so it looks like you're like an Amish evildoer in some way. Where I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
I put it down to the
Fantastic.
drawing. I just put it down to the style. Like you can see the edges of the mustache, sort of, but
Anything is less hot than Dubai. That's
Dubai.
also
That's
true.
true. This is way too nice to be a supervillain. Probably, I'd probably be like
Megamind.
no. I would probably okay, Megamind, or I'm the like second in command who's put upon and flips to the good guys near the end of the movie. Like, yeah.
Ta-da.
There you go. Maybe Doofenshmirtz.
Where maybe Doofenshmirtz. I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's a reasonable thing.
In terms of like other dumb injuries and stuff like that. So, do you still have your appendix? Do you know?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Any? Have you ever had anything like out, like
gallbladder? I had my gallbladder moved, so that was horrible long-term experience, and also like
gallstones or something else.
Gallstones, yeah. So I had repeated gallstone attacks. So what happens is the tubes that come from your liver and your gallbladder aren't flexible. They're similar to your urethra. So if a stone goes through, it just rips through everything. And
oh my god! Yeah.
Gallbladder's out for me. It wasn't bad in my opinion. That's because you're a bastard. No. So for me, the problem was that they couldn't, because I'm fat. They were like, couldn't figure out. They're like, just do some tests. But then one doctor's like, is the pain going straight to your back too? Like, because it kind of just goes from like
your
the
liver
bottom
area. Yeah.
Well, it's like the bottom right of your rib cage.
Yeah.
But like a little off center and then right through like that. Just back to front. And he goes, I think it's your gallbladder. Go get that checked. No, the problem is they want to do an ultrasound. No, ultrasound, you need to get nice and close to get a good ultrasound. I'm fat. So I had this lady jump up, essentially take the wand, grease up the whole area, take the wand, stay, like tippy toes off the ground, push in and under. So it went like under my rib cage to try and get a look. And like I ended up having like a massive bruise for how bad like she went in there. But she's like, I got a picture. And I'm like, oh, sweet Jesus, you can only do that once. So then when they took it out, finally they were like, it was like a bag of marbles. Like, because your gallbladder is only supposed to be about like 2.5 inches
I assume
by 6 inches. Like,
yeah, like yay big maybe.
Yeah. No. So it's long ways like that. So it's kind of like 6 inches by 2.5 inches.
Okay.
And there were 2 stones that were over 3 inches in diameter, and then a shit ton of small ones. So then they took out my gallbladder, and I'm like, "Can I have the stones?" They're like, "No, we don't give them out. They are used for research for 10 years, and then you can get them." And I'm like, "I'm not going to get them." And he's like, "You're not going to get them." I'm like, "Okay." But then the problem was that they took out the gallbladder, and there were still some stones in the ducts.
Yeah.
So I start getting attacks again, and they're like, "Okay, so this time." It happened 1, 2, 3 times, and they're like, "Fuck!" And I'm like, "I had it removed at this hospital. Can you guys figure it out?" They're like, "Okay, we're admitting you." And they went down this way. They're like, "Also, we found an ulcer, so we cauterized that as well. Went through, took out the stones. You have no problem. Haven't had a problem since." So
good. And then you've also like lost a bunch of weight since then, and I imagine.
Well, So that's the kicker is that I learned that the reason your gallbladder will result in gallstones is because of a fatty liver. And what happens is it turns that cholesterol into stones in your gallbladder. So I'm like, if I had known what I know now, I would have been able to circumvent that. The funny thing is that my mom had hers out when she was 26, but she also had started getting gallbladder pain when she was pregnant with my sister. So they're like, we can't do an operation. You just
Right.
have to grin and bear it. So she was like, she had to suffer horribly. And then also, my surgery was arthroscopic. So it just like through 3 spots and they took it out on the bottom. And it was like, I have like a little sad face above my belly button, which is where they took it out. But like, my mom has a scar like from her like full stomach. They had to open her completely up. But
Jeez, yeah. That's one of those things where, like, if your sister was giving your mom duff, she was like, not only did I carry you for 9 months, I carried fucking gallstones for 9 months
100%.
because of you.
Yeah. I'm going to start asking, what was your most
Your most
invasive surgery?
invasive
I mean,
surgery.
like realistically, it's a
I'll
good
get to
question.
that.
Yeah.
So like I've had my adenoids out, which are like up here. They're
What do they do?
supposed so they help what's it called? Filter amniotic fluid when you're in the womb. And they start
All right.
big and they're supposed to get small as you get
All
older.
right.
Mine just never did. So I just had a stuffy nose all the time. So they
Oh,
just took them out. So no biggie there. Though that one's not too common though.
yeah.
Second one was wisdom teeth. You
Yeah.
know, that's the reason I do comedy, and part of the reason this podcast exists is because I got my wisdom teeth out.
Did you have to have like you had full surgery when it came to your wisdom teeth, right? Were they impacted or anything, or like how
Yeah,
did it?
so 2 of them were impacted, and and the other ones were growing at a weird angle. So they just took all 4 of them out.
Damn.
And then the last one, and this is the answer to Joey's question: your most invasive surgery. So my appendix. Normally, when people get their appendix out, it is taken out because of appendicitis.
Right.
Have you ever been rotting from the inside?
I mean, I was fat, so probably, but
So what happened was my appendix abnormally large. It appears to be a pattern, right? Adenoids don't get smaller. Appendix is weirdly big, whatever. It wrapped itself around my large intestine and then choked itself from receiving oxygenated blood, which means it started to rot, which means I got fucking gangrene.
oh my god, bro.
My abdomen had trench foot. Do you understand? Like,
How old were you when this happened?
15? 14 or
Jesus,
15, yeah.
bro, you wouldn't have lasted. Like, let's be honest, if this was 70 years ago,
Oh, yeah, I'm dead, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at least with trench foot, they can saw your foot off and you're fine. This is,
Yeah. Bro, that's terrifying.
I was like home from school with a fever and then was starting to feel better at like near the end of the day. Went to bed, woke up, and I thought I was gonna die, like just burning this whole like side of my body. My dad rushed me to the hospital, and he got to observe on the surgery, which was kind of neat. They took my appendix out, and they caught it early enough where the gangrene didn't spread to my intestine. I would have had to have some of it like taken out, and that might have.
And that would be a lifelong nightmare. Let's be honest.
Yeah, like colostomy bags and shit for sure.
Yeah, that is horrible.
Yeah, so
yeah, I never.
Most invasive surgery, definitely got to be the rotting from the inside.
Yeah, that sucks. That's a big one. See, I always find it interesting. So the more and more I learn just about the human body and stuff, like I found out that like when it comes to like major surgery, when it comes time to put everything back, they just kind of like dump it in and your body figures it out over time. Like
pretty much, yeah.
They don't put anything back. Like there's just like, nah, just cram it in there, sew it back up. It'll figure it out. And you're just like, that's horrible. Like
I know it, especially because your small intestine is like fucking gigantic.
Well, like also too, like people always have this crazy things like, oh, your small intestine is like 70 feet. You're like, it's 17 meters. It is long, but it's
Yeah,
not.
no,
Yeah,
but
just
like your
calm
small
down.
intestine is like the topiary from The Shining, where it's like all over the place in
Correct.
this part of your body, and then the large intestine just kind of goes around it,
Yeah.
and then heads to your butt. So
Well, it's kind of like
yeah.
a peripheric highway, and then all the little roads in the middle.
Mhm.
You know, it's like a maze. But
Um,
I don't know. That's the thing is every time something's gone tits up for me, I've always had an inkling with this is gonna fuck up. Like I always get some sort of warning. Like I remember in grade school, I would ride my bike to school,
yeah.
and I loved bike riding. I tried it again when I was in my 30s. I got one block away from my house, and I thought I was gonna die, so I just picked up the bike and walked home. And I'm like, that was easy, but bike riding, I was like, I was gonna die.
Yeah.
So
I just love the idea. You know what? Fuck this. Pick up the bike.
yeah,
Start walking.
I just start walking with them. They're like, "What happened?" I'm like, "I have flat tire or something." They're like, "Oh, yeah." I'm like, yeah, no, my fat ass made the tires flat. That's what happened. But so I would bike ride at lunchtime to a convenience store, and people would give me money, and I would buy them stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was bike riding, and I loved going on like jumping over stuff, like just going off like little ramps, stuff like that. And I went to so I'm riding. I have an apple in one hand, so I was like kind of not really holding, only
Yeah.
one handed. And I was
You're
like,
like holding it with your wrist, kind of, or
no,
whatever.
like yeah, like two because I have ridiculously large meat hooks, right? So it was like my palm and like two fingers, and then I had the apple in my like
Mhm.
my palm and two first fingers, and I hit a bump, and I was like, oh, I can go over a bump, and I was like, I don't really have a good strong grip, and before I could, like, I was in the process of second guessing myself, I launched and just ate it, just and like I walked in the convenience store, my nose was bloody and everything, and I'm like, do you have any napkins? They're like, for sale. I'm like, just give me some fucking napkins, or I'm gonna bleed over your shit. And then I bought a sandwich and went home. It was great.
Oh my
Yeah,
god! You're like, do you have any napkins? Drip, drip, drip.
yeah.
What for sale? You're like, motherfucker, give me some napkins.
I'm
Also,
like,
do you have
bro,
a sandwich? Can I get a sandwich?
yeah, I needed a sandwich.
I would not be in the mood for food at all after that if I'm just
I was dedicated to being fat.
pissing
So.
blood, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, my dedication to being fat overruled everything. That was one time on the bike, and then the second time I busted the bike was so I got my one brother, the one that passed away, he was 2 years older than me. He got like a bike with like big gnarly tires. And I'm like, I had thin gnarly tires. So it was kind of like it was a faster bike. It was a little more light. It wasn't as substantial, but it had bigger wheel, like it was a bigger bike because I was bigger than him. And the problem was that I would go over jumps, and at one point I was like, I went over a couple, and I'm like, I landed, and I was like, I feel like something is a little bit bent. I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do any more jumps. Oh, but that's a good one. I went over, went up. When I landed, the front wheel pushed like back past the bar of the bike.
Yeah.
So I went over. I just missed, those green boxes that like on the side of the road in like residential areas. That's like a transformer or something.
We have like for compost or like
No. Like it's electrical stuff.
oh yeah.
So I just missed the corner of that, which like
Ooh,
barely.
yeah,
And then like we had just left my house, so now I had to walk my bike back, like as a wheelie, and just like walk it back because like the tire I couldn't move it.
yeah.
And then that was the end of biking for a very long time. Yeah, but
I bet
that was that. I didn't get hurt. I got like bruised up, but not as bad as the first one where I was like covered in blood. Like that one was, yeah.
So part of the reason I speak the way I do is when I was 2 years old in our house, our dog, hip checked me into a desk and knocked out my two front teeth.
Oh,
they didn't grow back for 7 years.
Yo,
so, I thought that song, All I Want for Christmas Is My Two Front Teeth, was about me. And that, like, somebody out there just writes songs about your misfortune and puts it on the radio.
I mean, that seems accurate.
Yeah, because I was like, that's too on the nose, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, the like that's kind of why I have that, you know,
Yeah.
way of talking because I was like learning to talk with no front teeth, um, and then
Man.
for a long time, bite from the side of your mouth, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's
Uh, oh, sorry.
no, it's just funny because I'm like, I just think of those people who are like, bite a sandwich, like, and the whole middle of the sandwich is still there because they have no two front teeth. It's just
Right,
hilarious.
right,
But
yeah.
yeah.
And then like another fun one is this one is definitely my sister's fault because she caused it, but she didn't actually touch me.
Yeah.
So she has the plausible deniability to,
Mm.
you know. So we're at a friend's house and they had like a tree house, but it was just kind of a platform,
Yeah.
like in the tree. So we're all up there and we're like shooting each other with squirt guns. And I think she saw me like near the edge with my back to it. So she squirts me in the face, which instinctively made me take a step back over the side of the platform and then fall through all these bushes and come out like covered in scratches and stuff.
Of course.
Um, but she was like, I didn't touch him. He walked off the side. I didn't know he was going to walk off the back of the tree
I think
house.
that's the key to siblings is plausible deniability because
Yeah.
you trip somebody, they fall and stuff, be like, I don't know, he just fucking he's a klutz. I didn't do anything. Like hilariously.
If you trip someone, you touch them. This one was just like we were playing with squirt guns. Everybody was playing with squirt gun. Not my fault.
But if you trip them, you can always be like, I don't they're just their feet.
They're clumsy.
They're wonky. Yeah, they're clumsy. Right. So I remember so there's been a few times, like, because I grew up in a machine shop, and a machine shop, just so people know, is steel and machines and like chemicals and all sorts of things.
This is not going to be good.
No. So hilariously, like there's a couple times where we would, because we built like giant cranes in our shop and everything, which were like moving like 10,000-pound things. Like it was massive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at one point we had built this it was a core cutter. And what happened was it was like 20 feet tall and it had a hydraulic pump on it that would cut these, like essentially the cores of like giant rolls of paper. Okay.
Yeah.
Because you had to cut them so you could recycle them. Now, the problem was that this was higher than the crane. That being said, what happened was I was moving something around with the crane and I hit it. Now, the problem was all week they had stood this up and everyone was like, don't use the crane on the other side. If you're using it, be really careful. And everyone was being told this every like couple of hours for like 4 days. And I was in college. So I was there on the 5th day when everyone was already comfortable and knew, stay away from the thing. Don't do anything. It'll be fine. Enter Dino. And I'm like, and I kind of look up and I'm like, oh, that seems too close. And then it starts tipping. And my first reaction is to try and stop it because I'm a giant.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, this is 4,000 pounds of steel. There's nothing I can do about it. So I get out of the way and it falls. It hits the wall, which is like a cinder block wall, takes a gouge out of it, lands. It doesn't land on anything, but it is like bent a little bit.
Yeah.
So everyone comes in and I'm like, shit. And they're just like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. Nothing else is though. And the one guy who was like it was a Vietnamese guy. His name is Fong. He knew how to do weird shit, but he was like, all right, you guys do my work. I'll take care of this. And we were like, are you sure? He's like, I got it. And he bent it back and put it upright again before my dad, because my dad was gone for the morning. So we had like 3 hours to fix it. And we're like, this is something that costs like $40,000 to build.
Yeah.
So I'm like, shit. So,
shout out to what was his name? Fong. You said?
Fong.
Yeah. Shout out Fong for saving. I
don't even know what happened to that guy. I hope he's well. But like that kind of shit. And then like when we were young, we had parent teachers day.
Oh,
and it had lined up. So it would lined up. So my brother had his, but he was in grade 7. I was in grade 5. We went to mine, and his was in the afternoon. So in the meantime, we went to the shop to do some work because my dad's like, we have shit to do. When we got there, we were trying to move a hydraulic power core, which is like a big square thing.
Mhm.
And the problem was the tow motor, the forklift that we had, couldn't lift it fully. So we
Wow.
had little bars of steel, like a round bar, to kind of guide it to where it had to go.
Yeah.
And my dad is operating the forklift and tells my brother, who is in grade 7, goes, okay, pull out the bar. Okay, so just pull out the bar because I'm going to put it down. As he's pulling out the bar, the actual hydraulic core slides forward and his finger goes under.
Oh my god.
So the tip of his left hand, because he was the only one of us that was left-handed. The tip of his finger just goes, and I watch it go like fly like 3 meters, and he comes up, he's like, wah! And essentially he's just like,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god. So I'm stuck at the shop. My parents get in the car. My sister and my sister-in-law finds the tip of his finger, which had his fingernail still attached to it.
Oh my god.
And we didn't have any ice, so she put it in like cold milk, and they were like, that's not that shit is dead. That's not being reattached.
Yeah.
So, and this would have been like, I was in grade 5, 1990, 91.
Okay.
So he got essentially a whole cast on his arm, and his whole finger was covered up like that, and it looked just like ridiculously big.
Yeah.
And in the end, his nail grew back and everything, and it just, because essentially it took off the tip of his finger, so it just curved. So it had this little like hook on the tip of his finger. So I would always call him Captain Hook, and he hated that. And I'm like,
Wow.
I don't care. So
My god.
uh
And I thought I had it bad. That's
yeah, so
yeah,
that was
Jesus.
also when that happened, I was just like, bro, like people asked, and like he showed up, and he was like, he was left-handed, so he couldn't write in school, he couldn't do anything.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I laughed. I laughed so much at him because it was ridiculous. But and I was just like, what are you gonna do?
I've had to like get used to like doing more things with my left hand this week because you like I never realized how important your middle finger is.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I thought your index finger was the one doing most of no, but this is like included in almost everything.
It's
So
kind of like your index finger is a guide, but this is their strength. So you're kind of like when you feel you can't grab things properly, and you're just like,
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, I'm in the right place, but I can't get the right. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
It's like I don't know. So my handwriting is really bad, and it's already kind of bad.
Yeah.
And my students are like, Mr. Novak, we can barely. I'm like, I am trying my best over here. You want me to try left-handed? I will.
It'd be hilarious if you were like calligraphy with your left hand, but you
Yeah.
couldn't. It's just like, who knew?
Yeah. When I was Jesus Christ, I love the idea of just if okay for the first story you told with the like bent thing.
Yeah.
If you had gone to the Prometheus school of running away from things, you would have looked like a half-empty toothpaste. You know, like,
Yeah. I mean,
do you know what I'm talking about? Like,
no, I have no
okay.
idea what you're talking about.
So in the movie Prometheus, there's this scene where there's a big tower and it's like falling on the characters, and they just run like as it's coming down on them. They run this way instead of going to the side.
Am I? Hold on.
So you have big tower.
Oh,
they're like in the shadow of it, running.
you're talking about you're talking about the Aliens movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So where the ship is coming down and there's like running
Going
straight. You're like, obviously run sideways.
to the side. Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, that like the wild part was that like because so this is the thing is you start to realize like little things when you're in an industrial environment is like you don't walk around with your hands in your pockets ever. That's not, you don't do that, right?
What do you
And
do with
also
your hands then?
always keep them out of your pockets. Always at the ready because
okay.
things happen constantly, right?
Got it.
So like we had another thing where like we were building cranes inside our shop. So we had like a main crane and we had a few that were like smaller cranes, which was just for certain machines to load and unload stuff because like the stuff was really heavy. It was steel, right? So like we built one, but it didn't have a wide enough bottom. So it immediately, like when we tried to test it out, the tolerance wasn't enough. So it bent, and like the crane, like, because so there's the railway, and then there's the crane itself, which is the mechanism. And that railway, like it does move, but if it's too loaded, it will slide. Or if it's not straight, it will slide. So this thing tilted and like fell right for me. And then like luckily it stopped at the end. But at the same time, like you realize like if your hands are in your pockets, like yeah, you have to be ready to stop
Got
them.
it. Yeah.
But the problem is like you don't realize how big weights are. So like you know those big, I don't know if you know this. So there are like rolls of paper, right? So where
Yeah.
they're like 6 feet wide, 6 feet, like it's a huge roll of paper. Okay. We had companies that we would work with, though they would manufacture and print those or cut those and do all sorts of things.
Yeah.
If one of those starts rolling, you instinctively be like, I'll stop it. You can't stop it. It's 6,000 pounds and it won't stop. So one guy I remember who was like jacked, like 270 pounds, solid muscle,
Yeah.
tried to stop it. He goes, I was like, I'm a monster. Like there's nothing I can't stop. He put his hands, he's like, didn't even flinch. Like it did not even hesitate. It just kept on coming. I was like, I moved out of the way. I was like, I've never experienced it. Same thing like for me, being a big guy, I'm like, yeah, if I say move, it moves. So when it doesn't move, I'm like, how dare you not move? The insolence. Like
being known as the strong person in your so like I'm the biggest person in my like immediate family.
Yeah.
So I'm usually called to move stuff or push stuff or whatever, lift stuff,
Absolutely.
whatever. So yeah, definitely when you find the limits of your powers, it's very humbling for
Oh
sure.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the hilarious thing is that like I walk into a room and I'm usually the biggest guy, and now I hang out with Kyle and it's like I am
Ah,
not, and I'm
yep.
like that is
So
hilarious to me.
you had the you had your experience with Kyle the way I had with you at my wedding.
100%, 100%, and
Where you're like, wow, that
yeah,
you're
yeah.
pretty huge.
Well, it's such a hilarious experience where I'm just like I'm massive, and then because I'm still like I'm twice as thick as Kyle, like front to back,
Yeah.
but I'm like I still have like a lot of weight to lose. So I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen in the end, but I'm like, it's hilarious because Kyle is that much bigger than I am, and I'm like, I'm not a small guy, and people are like, oh, you're much smaller than Kyle. I'm like, I'm really not because I'm still way more than Kyle. Very funny. But it's always weird to be in that situation because you don't realize. But that's the whole thing is having that experience from so early on. You're always hesitant. Like I was dealing with box cutters and sharp things. Like so, perfect example is like there are okay. So when you are machining steel, what comes off of it is called a turling, steel turling. Okay. And those are the little curly things that come off. Now,
Yeah.
the problem is that if you, uh, when you do that, some steel, when it comes off of it, is sharp. Like it's coming off
Yeah.
razor sharp.
Yeah.
Some of it comes off quite thick and it's super sharp. And if you touch it, you're like, oh, you're going to obliterate your hands.
Yeah.
And the thing is, over time, you get calluses and stuff, but you're like, they don't last.
Yeah.
Especially
or
when
just like it's not enough. Like that's how the knives feel because it's like a new set of knives that we got for our wedding.
Yeah.
So it like where you're like, I could cut this just by getting within like an inch of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. That's the hilarious part is like the only thing that's worse than a sharp knife is a super dull knife because that will be 10 times worse. And you're like, that is confusing logic, but it definitely makes sense. It's even now Victoria has a special knife that she uses for chopping. It's like a butcher's knife, but it's like only 4 inches. So it's like a small, it's like a miniature one where I'm like, I would need a big one. She's got a miniature one. It's very hilarious. Because she's little. So she's not little. She's just, everyone's little in comparison to me.
Yes.
But
everyone is a backpack under
like
my mini chopper is awesome.
it is hilarious because it's accurate. Or I'm like, yeah,
I know she means the like butcher knife, but I imagined a tiny helicopter, and that's even funnier to me. And like that's kind of what the crux of this episode is with like stupid injuries, because it's
Yeah.
not only reminding you like how vulnerable you are as a person,
Yes.
but also that like these are the stories that make up who you are. Where you're like, this scar is because of this. This scar is because of this.
Yeah.
This one, I don't know if it's visible on camera. Up
Yeah.
at the top there.
Yeah.
That was I was taking a cooking class when I was 13,
Yeah.
and we were baking bread, and
Mhm.
serrated knife into there. It probably should have had stitches at the time. But it just
How do you cut your? I love that. Like I would
you're
honestly
13,
start that. Like,
you know.
I was baking bread and I cut myself. You're like, none of that makes any. That entire sentence is wild because
Well,
you're
no,
like, why did you have
when
a
you're
knife?
like when you're using the bread knife to.
I know,
cut
but
off
when you
pieces.
said I was baking bread
Yeah.
and I cut myself, you're like, on bread? You're
Yeah.
like, that's not on a spoon. What? Nobody does that. That's
Yeah.
peculiar. But yeah, no, it's a serrated knife is a serrated knife. That's fair. But see, that's the like it's hilarious. Like on Hammered and Cheese, Cole will turn his camera down to show him cutting stuff, and the way he cuts it, you're like, that's irresponsible. Like
Oh
that's
my
not.
god. He's gonna have this.
The funny
One
part
of those
is, like,
times.
he's been
Yeah.
doing stuff, and he's also drunk during the same time, and everything's fine, and you're just like, oh man, like it's really you're just looking, and you're going,
He's
ugh.
gonna have a Captain Hook moment, but he's gonna be so wasted that he's just gonna be like, huh.
Well,
Shit.
it's hilarious because at the same time, Cole is definitely the kind of guy who's like, just super glue, duct tape, it'll be fine. And you're like, technically, you're not wrong. At the same time, you should probably go to emergency care. Just,
Yeah, super glue was originally used as like
Yeah.
stitches, basically. So
well, when you find out that also like certain military teams will also use like tampons and pads because like, it stops bleeding. You're like, yeah, you got a bullet hole, throw a tampon in. Ta-da! Like, plugs the hole. It does the job. You're like, that's gross, but also, I mean, that maths. So
look, I'm just glad my wife loves me enough to not leave me when she sees her brand new kitchen covered in my blood. If there is ever a CSI episode or the walkthrough involves a black light, we're getting in trouble when we leave here.
well, at the same time, I feel like it's hilarious where you'd have one finger with like towels and it's like, and you're like,
Yeah.
I got this, everything's fine in here, and just cleaning up. You're like, no, don't come in here, everything's fine. And just like, I feel like that's very much the same vibes as like the guy looking for his arm in Saving Private Ryan.
Oh my
like,
god, yes.
Just looking for my arm,
Yeah.
don't have an
There
arm,
it
need to
is.
find a replacement. Yeah, that's definitely.
Oh
I feel like that's definitely like, don't come in here, I got this. And she's like, you're bleeding. You're like, I'll clean it, I swear. She's like, no, why? Yeah, no.
This was literally the exchange. Fuck me, and then she goes, "Babe, what? Oh my god!" And because it was like,
Yeah.
I should also mention, aside from caffeine, because normally caffeine you would just think, oh, it takes a while to clot. The seizure med that I take is also a blood thinner.
Yeah.
So that's why it was like a fucking cannon, like
I mean,
on the cabinets and stuff.
It's one of those things where, like, so I a little while ago, it was this finger actually. You can't see the scar. There's no scar.
Yeah.
I was learning to use a mandolin, and I
Oh.
was very not a mandolin, but a mandolin, the cutter.
Oh, I was thinking of the instrument. Sorry.
I know you were. That's why I went like this, and you're like, that's not how a mandolin
Yeah.
works. So I'm like, no, a mandolin or a mandolin. So I was shredding stuff, and I was too brave and a little stupid. And I was like, I'm always afraid of cutting my fingers on a mandolin. That's why I don't like using it. But then we were using it a lot, and I was getting very comfortable with it. And sure enough, I cut myself, and I was like, and now I use the metal glove that it came with because I'm an idiot. So
take that, Sarah Bareilles. You don't have to be brave all the time.
You really, well, that's the thing is, I've gotten to a certain age where I'm like, I know my limits, and I will happily, unless it's an emergency, I stay away from those limits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even I remember when Kyle and I were working that
Haunted house?
Christmas, well, no, not the haunted village, the Christmas lights show.
Okay.
We had to move an entire boat, but it was on wheels. And I was like, yeah, me and Kyle could do that. No problem. Like, it was probably about 40 feet long, 10 feet wide, and about 16 feet tall. And it was on wheels. So it's kind of like a trailer, with a boat on it.
Right.
So Kyle grabs the steering wheel to push from that, like, because it was twisting, and I'm like, I'll push from here. And somebody else is like, "Can I? I'll steer, but you have to tell me how to steer." He's like, "Or I could just do both, and you don't have to do anything."
Right.
And they're like, "Oh, okay." And then it's like a bunch of people start doing it, but like before they even started, it was Kyle and I just moving it. And then everyone's like, "Yeah, we'll help." I'm like, "I don't need your help. We're fine. It's not, But then you're looking at people and they're like, "I'm gonna help." You're like, "You look like you're gonna fall under the tires. Maybe you should just stay away." Right?
You went to the Prometheus school of running away from things. By the way, that's from Cinema Sins. That's not like my own joke.
It's
That's,
funny. It's funny. I like it. It's I've always consistently seen that, and both Victoria and I have looked at that. And every time we see it, we're like, "Just sideways, dummy!" Like,
yeah.
It's and every movie does that where it's like a building is falling, it's falling, it's falling. They're like, "I'm gonna run the building." You're like, "No, you're not." That's not how. Also, buildings fall a lot faster than you think.
I also love the people who are like, well, maybe they don't have time to like cut and run to the side. It's like, it doesn't even have to be that. Just kind of, do it at an angle.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing that I've realized was that, like, I am a train. I can go straight. They're like, "Can you turn?" I'm like, very slowly. That's I can't. And like I've had shenanigans with little people who are like, "Turn, turn, turn, turn." I'm like, just stop serpentining, right? Because I don't,
serpentining.
That's basically what they're doing. So.
I know what you mean, but it's still funny.
Well, yeah. And that's when the octopus arms come in, and I'm like, I gotcha. Nowhere you can go. It's I feel like there is a certain element to caution and experience that only get worse with age, where you're just like, that's a bad idea. Because you've seen things happen, you're like, that's definitely a bad idea. And then it works, and then you kind of be like, why are you such a puss? And you're like, I'm not a puss. But I see how things can go wrong significantly and immediately, right? And
yeah. What's have you ever broken a bone before?
Technically, I think only my big toe. And I've fractured.
That barely counts.
It still hurts, to be honest with you. And that was like 20 plus years ago.
Wow.
Because it never really heals.
Stuff toe or like
somebody pushed. So I was coming up out of a pool and somebody pushed me, and I went to lift my foot up and I kicked the step instead. So it wasn't. Yeah. So but at the same time, like my big toe looks like some people's thumb. Like, it's huge. So I'm like, eh. And then a few years ago, I fell on the sidewalk and I elbowed. I didn't. So usually whenever I fall, I try and twist and fall on my back.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I can be winded, no problem, but I got a lot of meat on my back, so not a worry. But I couldn't twist fast enough, and I ended up falling on my hand, and I elbowed myself in my rib and cracked my rib.
Mm-hmm.
That hurt a lot. And that was, I had to wear a weight belt around my chest, but yeah, for like 6 weeks. It was rough.
My when I was 15, I was really into roller skating. I still like roller skating, but back then I was going for like a walk. My mom was like walking the dogs, and she's like, "You want to come with me?" And I said, "Sure." So I was putting on the pads. So like, all right, you put on your knee pads because fall on your knees. That can be bad. Put on your wrist guards. You don't want to break your wrist. And I was like, "Who falls on their elbows? Who fucking falls on their elbows? I'm not putting on elbow pads. They're itchy. I don't like it."
Yeah.
Ironically, as we were going throughout the neighborhood, I hit a crack, fell, and put all of my weight on this left elbow.
Oh.
All of this, purple for weeks.
Oh.
Hurt like a motherfucker. Now, over a decade later, I can't like lean on it for longer than maybe 30 seconds before it starts hurting.
For real?
Yeah. Like I definitely fucked something up.
Damn.
Yeah.
Listen, now you got those teacher benefits. You got to get them to get in there and just fix it. Yeah,
there's a part 2. So, last week, like the week we came back from spring break, it was like the Friday, and we had finished the movie I was showing in my movie class. We had like 10 minutes before the bell rang.
All right.
I was like, just hang out. It's Friday. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I moved my like rolly chair to the middle of the room, and was just sort of talking with the students. And I had my feet up on one of the empty desks, and the chair caught on a pencil. I fell on the other elbow. Not as hard, but just like all the weight on the elbow. And then I was like, motherfucker, if this ends up being the same thing, my elbows are shot for the rest of my life. So like 15 years apart from each other.
I feel it's hilarious when someone's like, "Do you have any chronic problems?" You're like, "I have bad elbows." It's like,
yeah, like that.
From what? Like, how do you like? I have fallen.
Hubris. That's why I have.
Absolutely, just 100%. That's exactly what it was. Yeah. I hubris and has ruined my elbows. Like that is a weird. I feel like hubris has ruined my elbows is a definite title for this episode.
I think the theme or the lesson to take from this episode. Your fingers are very delicate. Yes. Lidocaine fucking hurts when they're putting it in. Yep. So they can sew you back up. So please be gentle. I think because like the first time when they did it, it was just my face. So it was like lots of meat, lots of surface area. There's not a lot to work with here. So they were just sort of putting it into the finger. And I'm like, okay, before you start, I'm going to curse a lot in the next 30 or so seconds. Are you okay with that? And they like closed the door. And I was like, fuck, shit, piss, cunt. Like, it's just.
So okay, here's a question for you. So I don't like needles. I really, really dislike them.
Okay.
But then at the same time, like people are like, I'm like, I don't really like needles. So I'm just going to turn away and I just let them do whatever. And they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm in a lot of pain. I really dislike that. And there's like, you seem utterly calm. And I'm like, that's correct. I have murder inside me, but that's the also too, you should tell them, like it's the same thing with like when you stick yourself for diabetes, they're like use the side of your finger because they're less nerve ending. So like if they're gonna put
that's what they did, but it still really hurt because like
it really hurt.
It was split open, so you had to like
why can't you? Okay, if it's already split open, why can't they just like just drop some in? I don't
know.
I mean, it's a fair question.
Sure. They needed to make sure it got all in there because they were like poking me with the needle, like, is this dull or sharp? It's like dull. They're like, all right, cool. And then they started sewing.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely the theme there. Also, just like Kate, I am so lucky to have someone like Katie who I like just itchy and on edge, and she just I'm lucky. That's all.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. That is a very reasonable conclusion, sir. And realistically,
so comment your dumb injury below. What was the dumbest injury or sickness that you have been afflicted with?
Yeah, like not wearing a mask on an airplane can result in cold. Ta-da!
Honestly, I think I'm gonna do that for the rest of my life. Wear the mask on the plane. Like,
you know what? It was hilariously Victoria was because we usually sit in aisle seats across from each other.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, because I give a shit about me and my wife. I don't care about other people.
Yeah.
So my row had an empty middle seat, which was awesome.
Yeah.
But her row had two people. It was a three-person row.
Yeah.
And both of those people were coughing. So she had a mask on. I did not. My sore throat was already starting, but at the same time, I'm like, it definitely got worse from them. So
that's from Florida you were coming from. If you wear a mask, you're like offending Jesus state. So
I mean, a lot of people were wearing masks around there. So I'm like, I don't know if that's a real thing, but like also I was in Fort Lauderdale, which has a lot of old people too. So
I see. Okay. Maybe.
I
gotta say the best feeling in the world is there's the empty seat and they're like, flight attendants prepare for takeoff. You're like, yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The guy who sat beside me is like, hopefully there's nobody. I'm like, don't jinx it, bro. Don't jinx it. And then the doors closed and we're like, oh yeah.
And then the doors closed and then you held hands because you were in love.
I understand why it's not common courtesy when you are on a plane and are coughing to not wear. I know, like they were coughing, they should wear a mask.
Yeah, okay? I think more now it is, but even then, you still have people who don't do it. Like I keep a mask in my pocket just in general for stuff like that.
Listen, I'm yeah.
But, yeah, like even if the Ralphs gets a little too crowded, I'm like, all right, I'm masked it up. You guys are gross. Like,
Also, like, if there are kids around, you're like, ugh, gross.
Yeah,
Those are
so
machines. So
yeah, comment your dumb injury below. Leave a like if you like the show.
yeah,
This is not turning into a Dr. Seuss poem, I swear. You can follow us on all the social medias, Twitter and all that, at Generation Dan. What about you, good sir?
I am at Dino the Genetic Marvel right here, and also I am doing a live show April 19th, and is going to be a multicultural madness show. So it is all material about being Greek. I'm doing Greek; other people are doing their heritage. So it should be very interesting, and that I got to share that actually. So it
Yeah.
should be very fun. Very excited.
Oh, this is just for both of us. April 21st, we will be roasting frequent
Oh
guest of the show / former permanent host, Cole
yeah,
Clayton, for his
yeah,
birthday.
absolutely.
More details on that to follow. That's
Yeah,
April 21st. But you can find me at Atlas Novak in all the places. Um, I have a YouTube channel called The Epileptic Comic that's mostly short sketches. You can also check out my other podcast, Nexus at Night, which is about a trading card game called Vanguard. If that's not your bag, I totally get it. Or my other podcast, because now I have to say that, Last Minute History, which is on this RSS feed. So if you are subscribed to Generation Dan on your podcast app of choice, you will also get Last Minute History every other Monday.
yeah,
There was a bit of technical difficulty because of the internet being installed in this apartment.
yeah.
So for people watching this, the Bronze Age Part 2 will have been out for a few days. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, that was pretty much it. So thanks everybody for listening. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Later. Hold on. There we go.